Welcome to Static Routing Demo. So this is the 7th video demo on static routing, and this video demo covers IPv4 summary static routes. This would be the topology to be considered on this video demo. Let's move on to our video demo. Let us identify first the networks and the IP addresses to be considered on this video demo. Now, this topology comprises of 3 router configurations. So you've got R1 here, R2, and R3. Okay? So first, we are going to identify the networks connected to R1, and these are 172.16.3.0, 172.16.2.0. Okay, that is for R2, we've got 1.0, 2.0, and 192.168.1.0 here /24. Now for R3, we have this 192.168.1.0 and 2.0/24 directly connected to it. Alright, so even though this topology is used for IPv6 also, so we have a dual stack configuration. And this, we are going to start with an IPv4 IP assignment on this topology. Okay, so we have not yet configured any, alright, so on these routers here. So let's start with IPv4 assignment. So let's start with PC1. Okay, so we will be assigning the second usable IP on PC1. So we could go to desktop and IP configuration here. So let us assign an IP address. So this one would be 172.16. All right, so .3.2. So subnet mask would be /24. So that would be 255.255.255.0. So our default gateway from the topology is the first usable IP. So this would be 172.16.3.1. All right, so that would be our default gateway. Okay, close. So for PC2, we could go ahead and configure it also. IP configuration for PC2 would be 172.16.1.2. Okay, so as shown on the topology. So our subnet mask is /24, so that would be 255.255.255.0. So the default gateway here would be .1. First usable IP is assigned to our default gateway. So this would be 172.16.1.1 here. All right. Next, so for PC3, let us assign an IPv4 address to this. So that would be on IP configuration here. Okay, so this would be 192.168.2.2. Okay, subnet mask is /24. Okay, and the default gateway is the first usable IP, which is 192.168.2.1 here. All right, so this would be 2.1. All right, so we're done with the IP assignment on these 3 pieces here. Now let's move on to the router. So let's start with R1. Okay, so let us configure our R1. Okay, so let's give it a name. So enable configure terminal. Okay, say this is host name R1. Right, now let us assign an IP address on these interfaces. So let's show the interfaces here. All right, so let's go back to R1. So let's start with the G000. So interface G0/0/0 here. IP address. Okay, so this would be 172.16.3.1. All right, so 255.255.255.0. Okay, and then no shutdown. Right, so the next thing here is to configure serial 010. So let's do it. So interface serial 0, 1, 0. All right, so IP address, that would be 172.16, okay, dot 2.1. Right, so based on our topology. And this is 255.255.255.0, which is this last 24. Okay, and then no shutdown. Okay, so we're done with R1. So also during the configuration, so observe that we have here our indicator. So if it is green, that means it is connected. Okay, so for the serial 010 of R1, it's still in red because we have not yet configured. So the other end, which is on serial 010 here. So let us now configure R2 for IPv4 assignment. So let us display the interfaces here. So this is also serial 0/0/0. And this one here is serial 011. So let's configure R2 now. All right. So enable, configure terminal. Okay, so let's give it a name. Host name R2. Okay, so for R2, let's start the configuration with the Ethernet. So that would be interface G0/0/0 there. All right, so IP address, this would be 172.16.1.1. All right, so 255.255.255.0. Okay, no shutdown. All right, so next would be interface serial 0/1/0 there. Okay, so this is what we're going to configure. Let's put an IP address on it. So IP address 172.16.2.2. All right, so 255.255.255.0. Okay, and then no shutdown. So if you will observe, this is now green. So that means these two here are physically connected. All right, so let's configure serial 011 here. Okay, so let's move it on the other side here so that we can see the IP address. So that would be interface serial 0/1/1. All right, so IP address 192.168.1.2. 255.255.255.0. All right, so no shutdown. So we're done already with all the IP assignments or IPv4 assignments on R2. Let's go ahead and configure on R3. Okay, so CLI, let's configure this. So enable, configure terminal. Let's have host name. All right, this is R3 here. Okay, and let's do the IP assignment. Let us display the interfaces here. Okay, and configure R3 now. So you've got interface G0/0/0. IP address. So this would be 192.168.2.1. All right, so 255.255.255.0. No shutdown. Okay, so we're done with the R3 LAN here. Next would be serial 011. Okay, so interface serial 0/1/1 here. So IP address, this would be 192.168.1.1. All right, so 1.1 255.255.255.0. All right, and then no shutdown. Okay, so it is now up. Okay, so all of our interfaces are green. Okay, just to make sure before we test it, you could click this, okay, fast forward time so that it synchronizes faster. All right, so let's test our connectivity here. So we can use this add PDU here to test the connectivity and check the status on this area here. Okay. Now let me click add simple PDU from PC1 to R1 since this is directly connected. So we have successful here. Also, from router 1 to router 2, which is directly connected also. And then from router 2 to the computer, okay, so successful. All right, so we just need to test the directly connected networks if they are really connected. Okay, so next would be from router 2 to router 3. So these are directly connected. And then from router 3 going to PC3. Okay, so successful. All right, so you just have to click this for this topology to fully synchronized. All right, so now that we are done with an IP assignment, we can now proceed with static routing. Now that you're done with IPv4 IP assignment on these end nodes and intermediary devices here, okay, so the next thing to do is we are going to configure, okay, so standard static route, specifically on R1, static default route on R2 going to R3, and static route summarization on R3 going to 172.16.0.0 here, /22, which is the summary route for this network here, R1 and R2. All right. So if you want to see a demo, okay, dedicated for the standard static route, you could go ahead and check the other previous video demo about static routing. Same is true also with static default route. Now on this video demo, okay, so we will be integrating standard static route, static default route, and static route summarization on a single video demo. All right, so let's start. So basically, we have not yet configured any routing on R1, R2, and R3 here. So we could go ahead and check it out. Okay, so this is for R1 here. You've got show IP route. All right, so there is no route configuration yet set on R1. Same also with R2. Okay, so let's see the routing table for R2. Enable show IP route. All right, so you see only dedicated or directly connected networks there. Now for R3, let's do the same. Okay, so enable show IP route there. Right, so again, there is no static route configured. All right, so let's start with setting the boundary on this network. Okay, so we are going to assume, okay, so since we have here route summarization, let me set the boundary here. Okay, so fill color. Okay, let me just use this one here. Okay, and then, all right, no outline. Okay, so for instance, we are going to consider this as our boundary. Okay, so for 172.16, okay, so you'll have this. All right, so for instance, this would be 172.16.0.0/22 here. Okay, so we are going to have this entire network here, the R1 LAN. Okay, so the R2 LAN and the network between R1 and R2. Basically, they belong to 172.16.0.0/22. Okay, so let me show you how to summarize. Okay, so this three networks here into a single network. Okay, so basically we have here 172.16.10, 172.16.20, and 172.16.30. And the summary network for these three would be 172.16.0.0/22. Okay, so let me show you how we did that. All right, so again, these are the three subnets that we have there: 172.16.10, 20, and 30. All of it /24. Okay, So to summarize this network based on the previous Cisco course that you have, right? So we have to convert it into binary, okay? So 172.16.10 is equivalent to this binary equivalent here. Same thing with 2.0 and 3.0, all right? So we just have to compare the bits, okay? And basically, they are the same on this segment here, okay? So 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So they are the same, okay? So from the leftmost bit, okay, to the right, 22 bits, all right? So you're gonna have here 172, 16, 0. This time from slash 24, you've got slash 22 here. All right, so let's go back in here. So again, this network here should be summarized to 172.16.00. So 172.16.00 slash 22. All right, so this is our summary network. All right, so let's start. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is, of course, to configure our R1. So on R1, we will be using the standard static route. Okay, so enable, configure terminal, right? So IP route. So our remote network would be, okay, so that would be 172.16, right? That 1.0, 255.255.255.0. And of course, let's just use the exit interface here, which is serial 010. All right. So serial 010 there. Okay. Next, we also have other networks. Okay. So on R1, we will be configuring standard static route. So you've got there the 192.168.1.0. Okay. So you'll have IP route 192.168.1.0. 255.255.255.0. Okay, so same serial 0/1/0. So also going to 2.0 here. So just arrow up. And then let's just change 1 here to 2. So we're done on R1. So do show IP route. So you'll have there the 3 S's using standard static routing. All right. Next, let's go to R2 now. On R2, we will be doing default static route. All right. So to do that, okay. So why do we have to configure default static route on R2? Okay. So take note that R2 here is our boundary router, or we call it the stub router here. Okay. So to get out of this 172.16.00/22, we have to use R2, okay, as our exit, okay, and entry point for the network. So we will be doing default static route on R2. So all packets not listed on the R2 routing table shall be forwarded to R3. Right? So let's do it. So on R2, you've got configure terminal. All right. So you'll have IP route. Okay. So to configure the default static route, that would be 0.0.0.0, 0.0.0.0. Okay. Let's use the exit interface here, which is serial 011 there. We've got serial 0/1/1. All right. So that means all traffic not on the routing table of R2 will be forwarded to R3 here. Let's see that. To show IP route. Okay. We also need to specify the network going to 172.16.3.0 on R2. Okay, so let's do it. So something like IP route, okay, 172.16.3.0. 255.3.0, 255.255.255.0. And that is via serial 0/1/0 there. So we have two routes defined on R2. Okay, so one not listed in the routing table going to R3, and the other one is going to 172.16.3.0 here. Now let's see. At this point in time, we should be able to ping PC1 and PC2 there. So let's fast forward time, okay, and let's check that. So configure this and test. Okay, so ping PC1 going to PC2. All right, should get successful there. And then from PC2 going to PC3, PC1. All right, PC2. Let's do it again. PC2 going to PC1 there. All right, it's successful. Okay, but of course, R3 here is not yet configured. Okay, so when we try to ping PC1 to PC3, okay, failed. Same thing with PC2 to PC3, failed. All right, now let us configure R3 here. Now we have to configure R3 for route summarization. Okay, so to do that, let's click on R3 here. Okay, so that would be enable configure terminal. So instead of defining here the three remote networks, which are 172.16.1.0, 172.16.2.0, and 172.16.3.0 on R3, we just have to use 172.16.0.0/22, which is the summary network. All right, so let's do it. So you'll have your IP route. Okay, that would be 172.16.0.0 there. /22 is 255.255.252, all right, .0. And of course, our exit interface to reach that 172.16.0.0/22 is serial 011 here. Okay, so let's do it. This is serial 0/1/1. All right, so we're done. So do show IP route. Okay, so we have here 1S only for the three remote networks here. Okay, so we call this route summarization. Okay, so let's test it now. So we could simply double click this one, right? And it's successful now. All right, so that's route summarization on R3 going to 172.16.0.0 there. So instead of defining the three remote networks, we simply define a single network. Okay, and also on R2, we use default route going to R3. So if we try to ping, okay, from end to end here, PC1 to PC3, all right, and vice versa, PC3 to PC1, so you've got a successful network here, a successful PC connectivity, right? So PC3 to PC2, PC2 to PC3, and vice versa. All right. Now take note that route summarization should be configured only on the boundary routers. Okay. Now you might be thinking, can I summarize 192.168.1.0 and 2.0 to 192.168.00/22? Can we do that? Yes, but take note, the proper way of implementing a route summarization is on a boundary network or boundary router. So take note that R1 here is not a boundary router, right? It's within the network here. Okay, so R2 is considered to be the boundary. But if you want to, well, let's give it a try. Why not, right? So what I'm going to do here is, this would be 192.168, all right, .0 here. This time it's /22. So this would summarize this network here. All right. So let's do it. Again, this is not applicable because, again, R1 here is not a boundary router. But then, for the sake of demo, can we do that? Yes, we can do it. All right. So let's do it. So this time, I'm going to remove the static configurations on R1 going to 192.168.1.0 and 2.0/24 network. So let me show you again the routing table here. So enable show IP route. Okay, so we are going to remove this and do the summarization. But then again, let me repeat what I've said. Okay, so we do route summarization only on the boundary router. Now, for the sake of demonstration, I just want to show you that it's also possible, right? And it's also working only on this topology. All right, so let's do it. So let me remove that 192.168.1.0 and 2.0/24 network there. So configure terminal. Right, so IP route. So that would be no IP route. We've got 192.168.1.0 there. 255.255.255.0. Okay, also the 2.0 there. Okay, so when we check do show IP route, what's wrong? Do show IP route. So we only have one S there, which is going to 1.0 or 172.16.1.0/24 there. All right. So if we try to ping, okay, so from PC1 to PC3, so that would be a failure because router 1 here doesn't have any route going to this network here, right? So it only has the route going to PC2. Okay, and vice versa. All right, so let me delete this. Okay, and again, let's ping PC1 and PC3 and PC3 to PC1. Failed. Okay, so again, why it fails? Because we don't have route here going to 192.168.1.0 and 2.0. Now, we are going to perform route summarization here, though it is not a boundary router. Let's do it. Okay, so this would be IP route 192.168.0.0 255.255.252, right, dot 0 here. Our exit interface is serial 0/1/0. All right, so enter. Do show IP route. Okay, so if you will observe here, we were able to summarize the two subnets of 192.168.1.0 and 2.0 into 192.168.0.0/22 here. Let's see if this will work. Okay, so we could simply double click this and it works. But then again, that's what I'm saying, the recommendation or the proper way to do route summarization should be on a boundary network or on stub network or stub router. All right, so but then as we expected, it is working here. So we could have ping PC1 to PC3 using that configuration. Okay, so what we observed is that we simplify the routing table on R1 here. Okay, so that's also on R3 using route summarization. Okay, so that's it for this video demo. I hope you learned something from this, right? And do the right way of configuring the static route summarization. Thanks for watching and listening. Have a great day.